Welcome guys, welcome to this video. My name is Manu from Zogspace. Today we are going to see how to create this form application using react.js. We will put validation, we will see how to delete, create, update, everything. So for example, if here we have email and password field, I put any thing here, it is telling us it's an invalid email. I put the valid email, that goes away, now it's totally fine. For password we have advanced validation. So if I put anything here, it tells us that we need to put number, uppercase character, special character. So if I put here special character and a number here, you can see things are getting changed here, uppercase character, and it is now checking for length. So we need to put more characters. It says let's save. I save it. It goes there in the list. Now if you want to update something, let's say this sum of 1, 2, click there. It says let's update. You can remove or edit whatever you want to do. Hit update. It updates that particular value. That's perfectly working. Now here, if you want to delete it, just click here and the value is deleted. So this is perfectly we're going to see all the concepts of React to build this application. We will also see their data persistence, because here if I refresh the page, data stays there because we're using session storage in this application as well. So we are going to see all this in this video, so let's get started. Alright, to start with, first we go to Google, and there I'm gonna search for React.js, and we need to create an application as a project here. So if you go to docs, there is the create new React app. If you scroll down, you will get the command for it. So it says npx and create React app. Make sure you have Node.js installed in your system. So just search for Node.js and you will come to this website and you just download it and install it in your system. Now what I do, we copy this, go back to terminal. Now here I have the folder of, basically it's an empty folder from -app on desktop of my computer. I have it opened in my Visual Studio, so simply you can create a folder and drag and drop in the Visual Studio. It opens up here. Now what we need to do here is we need to install the React files in this folder. So what we do, we first open the terminal. So for that, I go here. Now I'm already inside this folder. Now I paste the command from the website. Now if you run this command, it's going to create a project and install everything inside this my app folder. But in our case, we have form-app folder. So what we need to do, we need to change this to dot. So we are now telling that create the project in current directory. So if I hit enter, it is going to ask us, okay, to proceed, you need to install the following packages. I say yes, and it is going to do its job, going to create whatever is required for our project. Now package.json is already there. Some of the project files here. So Node.js is the directory where we have all the packages that are going to be used by React. So we know we will not be touching it. We have the public folder here where we have the index.html file. Now this is the file where everything gets rendered. So we have our React connected to this website. So what we basically do is, it says here, if you see here, this HTML file is a template and it has ID of root. So if we go to the if I close this directory and go to source, here we have a file named index.js. Now here, if you see here that we are importing the React on top, and then we are saying react DOM create root, and here we are passing the ID of root. So that's the ID that we are picking from the public folder from this index.html. So everything is binding here, and that's how React works. So basically this is that directory. We will not be touching it much. We'll see when if required to do something here, but for now we just gonna leave it. Our main directory where we will be working with is going to be source directory. Everything going to be here inside it. So we will create components and everything there. Already we have here index.js where we already have one component created. If you are not familiar at all with any of this, I will show you step by step. Now I close this directory. Then the other thing we need to check is the package.json. Here we have the packages that we installed. So we have React 18.2.0 we are working with. We have React DOM installed here, React script version here. So any package you will install later on will come here. So you can check what packages you're using. Your application version is mentioned here, and as well as the application name. All right, so let's get started here. So first of all, we are already inside the directory. As it says, go inside the directory and run npm start. So we need to do that. I'm going to run the npm start. So after running npm start, you get the development server. Here is the URL for it, and I'm going to open it here. So I'm going to copy this, go to the browser, and I'm going to paste it here and run it. So you will see your React application is up now. Now if you go back to the code, what exactly is happening? So if I go to source directory, here we have few files which is making this animation working. So let's see how things are working here. So here, if you see, first thing first is app.css. So here some style is given that is making all things as if I delete everything from here, you will see that everything breaks there. So if I restore it, it comes back. So we don't need to refresh or anything because the npm start is dealing with it. So it is looking for all the changes. If we make any change, it is automatically going to update here. Now if I go to the next file, app.js, we have things happening here. So this is the first main root component. So if you see here on top, we are getting an image, which is SVG. That's this one. And we are importing the app.css. So we are getting the styles from there. Then we are saying here, okay, we need to do something with it. So we are calling the image inside this image tag. So that logo, and after that we have a link and we are saying learn React. So if I go here, you see the same things happening here. So if anything you edit here, if I say learn React 18 and go back here, you will see that will update there. Now in our case, we don't want it this way, we want differently. So we will be changing it. Now before changing this, I want to show you one thing. So basically the most important files in this directory is the app.js as well as the index.js. So if we go to index.js, basically what is happening here, we are importing React and React DOM, and we are importing it from the node modules. So if you go here inside it, you will just look for R here. You should be able to see React. So just a moment. And there it is. So we have React coming here. So we are just saying, okay, go to the node modules folder, import the React, and the same way React DOM. Then we are saying, okay, we have a root directory, so we are using JavaScript to get the root directory, and we are saying, okay, get this app component and bind it to our root directory, and there our application will work. All right, and then we have this app component where we have our code which is showing this animation. So okay, now it's time we start working on our application instead of this default rotating logo. So what I do, I go back here, I'm going to just close it. Now here what we can do, we can create our own thing. So what I do, I create a folder here and I'll call this folder pages. So any component we create, we can create inside it. And here for now we have this app component, but I want to have some kind of separate component, not just app component. So what I do, I create a component here first. I call this component main component. All right, so it's going to be main. So make M capital and main dot we're gonna give the extension JSX. All right. Now, once you have this component created, anything you do here, it's not going to affect here, because before use your component, you need to import your component first. So if I go here, I need to say import, and then we can call like main from start a string, put a dot and slash, and you will see the directory. So your pages directory is there, then slash, then there's main. So we are importing it from there, and now if we have it here, so what we can do, we can use it. So here I remove this header portion, I delete all this code, and here I'm going to say, all right, we want to use a component which is main component, and that component comes here. Now our component doesn't have anything inside it, and that's the reason we are not seeing anything here. But if you go back here and say hello, and it is going to give you error. Now the reason is simple, because this is a JSX file, and we need to work in a way that React works. So it needs to be a functional component. So for that, what we do, we say React functional component. So there is extension that you can install in Visual Studio. So when you go to extension here, you can search for React, and there are a few extensions that you can use, like this extension. So ES7 plus React Redux. Basically what happens, this gives you some shortcuts that help you generate the default layout for your component. So if I delete this, simply say here React functional component, you can see that it's on hitting of enter, it generated some content for us, and it saves some time. So we have main here, we pass it returning just a main. Now this time we are not getting error, we're getting the main displaying there. So this is how we can work with it. Now I want to work on React mainly, not want to waste time on the styling of the component. So we need to work with the React Bootstrap. So this is something that once you have this installed, a lot of things are going to be a lot simpler. So I say click here, and then the npm stop, just like that, simple. So we will install it. So I go back here, and in here we have a new window we can open, and I'm gonna install this package. So you simply install the packages like this: install npm, install, and the package name. And we are installing here React Bootstrap and Bootstrap. So here I run it, and it's gonna install it. Now when it installs, it is going to give us in package.json the detail about the package. So React Bootstrap is installed, and this is the version what it installed. So Bootstrap 5.2.1. Close this. Now we can use it. Now if we go to the get started page on Bootstrap, we have to import the components like this. So if we want to use a button, we need to import a button, and then we can call the button we're inside our application. For CSS, we need to import CSS like this. So in our case, we have the app component as a main component, so everything will be called here. So we have a form which is going to be inside main, so we can if we include something here, that will be available globally to the child components as well. So what we can do here, we can import the CSS here. So we can put here on top, like we want to use Bootstrap, and we are including the CSS. And that is going to be available in our main.js file as well. Or if we create any further nested or child component, we will be having the access to Bootstrap through app.js. Now the another thing is that we need to include is, let's go here. So we will be using the button. I'm gonna copy that, and I'm gonna put here. Also we need to work with forms, so we can search for form here, and you can see we have a form given here. So to use a form, we need to import a form. So I copy this line and I put in here. All right, now our form is going to be quite similar to this one. So what we can do, we can copy this and I go back here where we are saying main. We can put it like this. Now the thing is, we're gonna have our app in divided, like you can see form is here, but I want form to be in half of the screen, and half of the screen going to have the list of users that we create using form. So for that we need to divide it. So we can use container. In that case, in Bootstrap we have container. So what we can do here, so if I want to show you one more thing here before going. So if we create here a div and we create here another div, this is going to give us an error in React. So we need to make sure that the top element is 1, and if you want multiple divs, either you put those divs inside a div. So for example, I create a div here, and the ending of this div goes like this, so I'm just gonna closing div. So ultimately now you have multiple divs inside a single div. So that's how you can use it. If you don't want to use div, you can pass empty like this as well and still use multiple divs and multiple elements as you like. So first thing first, what we want to do, we want to have a container. I remove this and go back here. In JSX, if you want to pass a class, you call a class name, and we need to pass here a class, and that's going to be container. All right, that's going to be it. Then we want to create divs here, and I'm gonna call this div with the class of cool md. Short will work. Let's try that. So okay, so we have class name cool md10. This is a Bootstrap thing. This is nothing. Basically going to make it center, and we want it with center as well. So offset will move it from the starting bit forward. For margin top, I pass as 5, padding top as 3. This is all Bootstrap. You can check inside the Bootstrap documentation. It's something you will get there. So if you say here, I'm gonna divide this into 2 columns, so it's gonna be called md6, and the same way here they're going to be div call md6. So they're going to be basically there are 12 columns in the screen. I just divide it by 6 by 6, and for further you can check in the Bootstrap documentation. I paste the form inside this first call md6 so that our form displays there, and I want to align it with, so okay, looks better. Now go back here, you can see that half of the screen it is here, so we can show the user list on the other side, so that's good. Now behind the scenes I'm going to correct some styling here, and after that we can start working on React, because I don't want to waste any time on styling on this one. Alright guys, so I made a few changes here, nothing much. If we go here, we just see the email, password, that's it. Now if I go back here, we also need the alert. So if I search for alert, we have alerts showing up something like this. We can have these kind of alert as well. So what I do, I copy this and I put it here just below the form like this. All right, now for using alert we need to import it as well. So just copy the alert and put it on top. Okay, now let's go back, show and set show. So there are two methods it's using. We can remove these for now. I'll show you how these things work, but for now we just remove these so that we can see the alert box. So we have it alert box here. All right, now what I want to do, I want to say here, I want to call it let's save, because first we want to save our user. Then we have a p tag for now to move the content from here, and then here where we have this in the button, I'm gonna say save user. Let's see how it looks. So here, save. So yeah, we have it looking nice a bit. Now what I want to do, so when we add the info here, we click save, it is going to save the user for us. And that's how it's going to be. Now we also want the list. So we say here list group. So let's see. So here we have list group. So what I can do here is I can copy one of these. So I want this one. So I just copy this list group. I go here, and in the next, I call MD6. I put this. Alright, so we'll be able to see some content there. This group, this is the allies, so this goes a bit further in. And we need to import it as well. Yes, it is imported on top here. So go back here, put it on top. Alright, now go back to the application. You can see that we have list group showing up here as well. Perfectly fine. Now, what I want to do next is I want to work on this saving data. So we need to create state, and we will be using that state and for our form. So there are going to be two states. States are like variables or you can call properties. So we will have one for email, one for password. Now what are we going to do? We're going to create one here. So what I do, first of all, I go here and in the enter email where we have input, we say here value, and we pass a state. And obviously we will get the error here. So what I say, I'll call it user email. This is going to be a state we are going to create now. And also I want to create a function as well. So what I want to do, I want to say on change. So they're going to be a function on change. And how you call that function, you simply put the curly braces and there you call that function. So I say here validate, and we checking input here. So I'm going to say input, validate input. All right. Now React says we have user email and validate input, both are undefined because we need to mention these before calling them. And in input we call them. That's why it's causing the issue. Okay. So first thing first, we go here on the main, and here I need to create first a state. So for creating a state, I say use state, and in React, use state is something that we use to create update states. So how it's going to work? It's going to work something like this. You say constant, you pass an array, then you say use state, and whatever value you want to set as default you pass here. So the email field, input field, we want to make sure that it is empty by default. So I pass an empty string here. By default it's going to be empty, and we called it user email, so that's going to be its name. So here the first value in array goes as user email, and second is going to be set user email. All right, so how it works is that this is our state that we're using. Now you can see that our error is gone now because we have a state. If you want to update user email, you need to call this function, and you can pass the value. Whatever value you will pass, it is going to go into this user email. and we will see in a moment how it works. If you want to pass a default value, you're passing it here. So if I'm passing it as an empty string, it is going to be empty string. All right. So this is how it works. So we have a validated input is undefined as well. So we can do that too. For that, what I say as a constant. This is a function. So here are going to be validate input. Spellings are not right. Validate input equals, and we are getting an event here because when we will be doing our own changes, we're gonna get an event, and here we can look for that event. So we can say here console.log, and to get the value of that input, we can say event.target.value, and it should give us the value. All right. So now letters are gone. I go in the browser. I right click, inspect, go in console. There, we need to refresh, I think. Yeah, no errors. Now what I do, I go here and input and type anything. So you can see that when I type on change, we are console logging the value. Then that is console logging there. All right. So what we need to do now is first thing, by default, if I pass here something, let's say default at gmail.com, something like that. So you can see that it's setting there because that's how you set the default value. So we want as an empty string, so we are passing that way. All right, so first thing first, we need to check if we getting the valid email. All right, so there is I have a formula that I am going to use. It's nothing about React. It's basically the JavaScript that we need to use here. So what we do basically, whatever we're getting here as an event, and we're gonna get here. So for example, if I say if condition, I pass, I'm gonna copy paste this code here. So we are passing a pattern. We are saying if the pattern is matching using the test function from JavaScript, if it is matching, then our email is correct. Otherwise, it is not a valid email. So the test function is going to take the event target value. So we need to pass that here. So we say event.target.value, because this is the value it is going to test against this pattern. And here we can do things accordingly. So we can say if it is valid match, that means valid email, do this. If it is not a valid email, do something else. So I told you to set the email, we use this function. So we can call this function here. So if it matches, so what we do, we pass this function and we pass the value. So we simply get the event target value, copy from there, paste here. So we are setting this value to our state user state. All right, so it's gonna update that. Now we have it in place, like if the pattern matches, it does something. Otherwise, we need to show a message to user because the email is not valid, do something, correct the email. So for that, we need to again create a state. What I do, I go here, we have the form text here, and we can pass here style to it. So we can simply say here style, and this is how you pass style in React. You simply pass curly braces, then you can pass them again. Here you can say color, and I'm gonna call it red. All right, so any text I put inside it needs to be red, and you can see there it's showing up right there. All right, so what I want to do, I want to pass here state, and that's going to be, we're gonna call it header, or let's call it email message. So message. All right, so email message, yeah. So whatever is this going to be, it's gonna show there. So we call here constant, and it's gonna be email message. Then they're going to be set email message. By default, what do you want to do? Use state, and by default I want it to be empty. so that because there's not going to be any error, so we want it empty. Now here okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm saying here if the pattern is not matching, because I have exclamation mark here, so we put here, and here I'm gonna pass the message, what message we want to pass. I'm gonna copy this set email message, and I'm gonna pass the message inside it. So I say invalid email address. All right, and if it is a valid email, we want to make sure that this message is not there, it's empty again. So we are setting it to empty string there. All right, so if I go here, so if I type something, we get nothing, and as well as we get error. All right, so here is the thing, what is happening when it is not matching, it is setting the message. All right, so there is a message and it's showing, that's fine, but it's not setting the user email. So user email needs to be set in both cases, because we are using it as a value. If we don't set a value, whatever we type, it's not going to display. So if I'm typing here, it's not going to show. So what I do in that case, what we want to do is we just simply cut it outside of this statement, because we want it to be set as user email in any case. So if I type now, it is going to be there. All right, now the thing is, you might think like, why then we are doing this, and still we are setting the email, and even the email is not correct. But don't worry, we will be doing the check before we use the value. So for now, it needs to be used, because otherwise we won't be able to show it in our input. All right, so here now we have it. So if I pass here, let's say something which is like an email, now it is validated, that message is gone. So if I remove .com, we get that invalid email. So for email, it is working fine now. So that's how you put it. Now let's deal with the validation of password, because that's something which is going to be a bit more complicated and a bit more time we're going to spend there. And the way it's going to be a bit similar. So I'm just going to copy the value and I'll change from here. Gonna paste here. All right, so we're gonna call this user email as a user password. All right, and here we can call it a validate password. Now we need this user password state, so let's go here, constant, and pass state user password, then set user password. All right, by default it should be empty, so empty string is provided. And now we need to work with the function. So I've added here a comment. So this function for validating email. All right, now put here another constant validate password. Again, we were going to use event in this case as well. And then we want a comment here. We can call it function for checking password. Or validating password. All right. So that's nice. Now let's work with this. So what we need to check, there are a few things we can check in a function, like the length of it, if it includes a special character, and things like that. So I'm going to use predefined few functions here. I'm going to show these functions to you, and these functions are also going to be provided to you in the blog post of this video. So from there you can get the code as well as the whole zip. So if you want to use it, basically it is a JavaScript functions. So first see this. I am going to copy paste it here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put these functions on top so that we have a bit separation. So I'm gonna put here. So this one is for check special characters. All right. So it is going to take a string. So wherever we are going to call this function, we will pass the string. In our case, the password we will pass here. It is going to check if this password includes any of these characters. If it does, it is going to set found character as 0 initially. It is going to check with each of the character in our password, and if there is any of these character present, it is going to return like, all right, there is a character, special character present. And so it is initially 0, and it is increasing in case there is a match, and it returns that count. All right, and using this you can check if there is any special character. So we can put here a comment as well. So checks for special characters and returns count. All right, so return boolean basically. So that's gonna return us 1 or 0 in that case. So let's see how we can use it. So here we have the event. So for getting the password, if you guessed it right, we need to use event.target.value. And here, first thing first, we say here, check for special characters. All right, and how will we do that? We will call that function. We will call this function here, and we will pass event.target.value. All right, so if this value has a special character in it, this function is going to return us a number. So we can put this condition inside an if statement. So if there is going to be a special character, we want to get it. So what I'm going to do here is, inside this validated password, I'm going to create a few variables so that we be able to check things properly. So I say here let, and I'm going to say here check special characters. All right, equals, let's call it true. So this is going to be by default true, and here if the special character is present, we will set it to false. All right, so that means it is false now. No need to check for special characters any further. And I also want to put a check count each time we check. Like if we check if there is any number present, there is any special character present, we want to increment a count. So for that, I create another variable. It's going to be let's say check count, and by default it's going to be 0, and we will be incrementing it. So here in this, I say okay, if there is a special character, increase this count. All right, now also I want to check the length of the password. So what we can do, we can create here another condition. So simply check length of password, right? So here we say if, and we can do this, we can put this as well itself in a variable instead of calling it again and again. So what I simply say here, let password equals this, and we use the password here and the same password here, dot length. All right, so now it's a single word that we can call again and again. So we are saying like, okay, if this length, the password we are providing, is more than 8, all right, that means we are making things working. So we are saying check count in in this case also increment it. And just like this special check, we need to create for length as well. So we here create here let check length. All right, true. And if it is false, that means it is done. All right, so we can say, okay, set it to false as well. We don't need to check it any further. All right, now we need to check the password for uppercase. So for uppercase, I'm also going to check here. Let's say check for uppercase in password. So there should be an uppercase character. So we will do this exactly same thing here. Check count going to be incremented, and then I'm gonna call here let check uppercase true. All right, we take it here and we set it to false. Now we don't have anything here. What are we going to do here? We're going to say here check if has uppercase character. Alright, so this is a function and we will pass password to it. Now we don't have this function, so let's create it. And for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste again a function I have already created, so that I don't want to waste time on that. So let's do that. So I go here on top, I paste a function. So it says check if has uppercase character. We are passing a string. Initially, it says it's a 0, a new variable. It is going to check inside it, and if there is uppercase character found, it is going to plus plus the uppercase found from 0 to 1 or 2 number of times, how many times it finds the uppercase character, and that number it is going to return. So here we can do is checks for uppercase characters and returns boolean. All right, now we have it, so we can use it. So make sure the exact same name we provided there. All right, so we have length, we have special character, uppercase, and now we need to check is. So now we need to check for number, and for that we simply can put a condition here. So we can say here if and password. All right, and it's going to be comparison. So it's going to be dot match, and how we're going to match it, we're going to pass here a few characters. So it's going to be like this, day plus /g. That's it. And it's going to check for a number. If the number is present in the string, we can go ahead and do something the same. So I say here check count, put here, that's going to be incremented. Now we need another check for number this time, so let's call it check numeric. Check numeric. I set it to equals to false so that we don't check it anymore. Okay, let's go up here and okay, here let check numeric true, and we are setting it to false. So far so good. Now let's deal with the showing the error messages, because we need to show user like, okay, you are passing something, some numeric numbers are required or characters are required. We need to pass all those messages. So if I go back here, we have error message for email, and that's basically it we have. So we need to create some kind of error message for our email. So what I do, I create a variable. So let's go here, First, I create a local variable. I call it error and error string, and I'm gonna put default value to please add. All right, and whatever thing going to be missing, we will be appending it, or we will attach it at the back of it so that it becomes a complete line. And we need to have a state as well, so we're gonna create here constant, and I'm gonna call it error message, and then it's gonna be set error message. Use state going to be by default like this. All right, so if anything confusing, it will be clear pretty soon. Bear with me on this one. Now we have the error string here. So initially these values are true. All right, if the corrector found, then it gets false. So what we can do, we can check for it, like, okay, if it is true, after checking these, it is still true. That means that particular password does not have that corrector, or it is not uppercase, or the length is less, because it is getting false if it has, or if it passes that check. So what we can do, we can say here, let's deal with the special character check first. So I put here if, and we can say here check special character. So if it is true, this condition will be true. And what do we want to do in that case? We want to say error and the string, because that's the variable we're using on top here. And we have please add, right? And what we want to do, we want to attach an error. So I say here plus equals, and I pass here a string. I want to break it to a new line, so I say /n, and I'll put a star, and then I put here more, or add a special character. All right, so this is going to be attached to it exactly the same way we need to work with the others. So let's add that. So if check, this time is going to be numeric. If it is still true, because it is going to execution from top to bottom, if till this point these are true, that means these are missing. So here we say check numeric. I'm going to copy paste this from here inside it. Now the message changes because it's for numeric, so I say add a number, or you can say at least a number. I copy this, paste it again, and check. This time let's check for uppercase. Add a uppercase character, uppercase character. All right, and what we are left with now, special character. I think special is done, number is done, length. So check for length, and more characters. I think more characters. All right, so these are going to be the errors and going to be attached. So the original string we have is here, right? So now what I do, I'll say, okay, if the original string is not equal to what we set initially, which is this, that means there are some errors are attached to it, and then we can use it. Alright, so if it is not equal this, that means there are errors. So we can now set our state. So we have a set error message. I go there, I call it, and here we can pass error and string. Alright, so it's going to set there. Now to display it, we need to put it error message into the form. So if I go here, just like that we did here, we need to put here. So error message. Alright, so now if we go here in browser and I type anything, it's not typing the password. We need to check that. Also, you will notice that we have the please add special characters, add numbers, everything showing up here, but I wanted everything in new line. So for putting everything as a new line, we need to go inside the app.css, and this is a smaller CSS fix. So what I do here is I remove everything, and here I'm gonna put here $container and container, and here inside it we want to say white space pre-dash line. All right, and I go back to the main. We have our code. If I go back here, you can see everything is new line. So the another thing is when I type here, it's not updating the password because what happening is if we go back here, so when you put the password, you are setting where it is. It's here. So you're setting the user password, but we are not updating anywhere the user password. So what we need to do, we need to use our set user password in any case. So if there are errors, no problem. We will still be passing the password here. So what I do, I copy the password from here, go back here, and paste it. Don't worry, before submitting, we're gonna check it, and we will stop user. That will work just fine. So now if I go here and type anything, you will notice that it's started to type. And if I put here, let's say uppercase is gone. If I put number error is gone. If I put special characters, okay, for special characters it's not working. Okay, so what is happening basically when we put here passwords, let's say something, it's a special character, I pass that, I pass number, uppercase. Now when it says add more characters, if I put anything, it doesn't go away. The reason is because we are saying if it is not equal to please add. So if you see, we at last it is going to have at least one condition. So what if it is equal to please add? Because when it fulfills all the conditions, it is going to go here, it will reach this portion, and it is not going to execute because it is checking exactly the same please add. So what we need to do, we can say here else, and then we can say set error message to empty string. All right, so it's like this. So let's see now what happens. I go here, put here something, special character, number, uppercase, now more characters. Let's add more characters, and it's empty string, so it's now gone. All right, now we need to work on the coloring. So if I put here, this all should display red, and then we have colors based on the number of things are already done. So if you check here, I added the count each time. So each time, each thing will be checked, that it will have a count, and maximum we are checking 4 things. So we have 4 times, so we can use different colors for it. So before setting the password, we can also put here another stuff. So we can put a comment here, adding color in message, and for this we can put here, from here I'm making error message, so that we be able to see the difference where it is starting from, whatever we are working on. So the top portion is the logic, then we have error message checking, and then we have the color. All right, so here what we do, we say here if, and I want to check for this check count. All right, so we can say if check count equals to let's say 0. All right, what do we want to do? Initially it's going to be 0 because nothing is done. So we can say here, let's set a color to red. Now we need to set a state in this case as well. So what we can do, we can create a state. So I go here on top and I say here constant, it's gonna be error color. All right, and then we say set error color, and then use state. By default, if we want to pass any color, you can pass any color, and I'm gonna pass here, let's say hash 333, which is a dog gray, I think. So it's, yeah, going to be by default that. Now, based on our checks, it should update. So let's go. I copy this one and go down here. If it is 0, we want to pass here a string, a call. The color would be red initially. Then let's have it. If it is equal to 1, what do we want to do? So let's say 1 is like one of the thing is matched. Either they added the number or a special character. So password is getting stronger. So it's gonna be orange, and then if they added 2 things as we want, now we can pass here another color. So the another color, let's add it gray, so we can see, because yellow won't display properly there for now. And if it is 3, let's add blue. The main thing is we will be able to find out how things work. And if all and everything is set, which is, if it is 4, then what we can do, we can set the something that is going to for now let's leave it for now. That's what I do. I just comment this out and let's see what happens. So first let's go back here, and before we're going back, because we set the color, so this state, we need to use this state. So copy this and I go back to the error message. Now in this error message, we need to find a way to pass our color. So here I pass style equals the way we did before. We pass red here by default. In here we don't want default, we want our color, so it's going to be color, and just pass your color. So our color going to be here, and yes, it should work. Let's check if it does. I refresh, and here if I say something, we have red color. Let's add a special character, it becomes orange. Let's add a number, it becomes gray. Let's add uppercase, it becomes blue. Now more characters, the password is gone. Now it's the time we work on this portion. Let's save. So it shouldn't display by default, it should display when we have all the values and all the validation done. So let's do that. So here I have it. So we can use a state, we can set a state, and that enables it. So if I go here, when all the validation is done and this is 4, I can, instead of working with color, because the message won't be displaying when we have check count 4. So we can check, we can create a state here that can be used, that okay, yeah, the password is validated. So we can say here, like we did the check count, we can say here, let's call this state as well, check count. So I say here set check count, and I want to set it to 1. All right, and in case any of the validation is not set, not proper, we want to set it to 0. Now we don't have this state, so we need to create it. So let's go here on top and we create this state. So here constant, and I pass it here like this. This is check count. And then here I put the lowercase c. All right, and then use state, and by default we pass 0. Alright, so it is going to be 1, then we show that message. Actually it needs to be 0 initially, so let's do it. So what we need to do, go back to the page. No error so far. Go back to the alert. Any alert, I simply gonna put here. I'm gonna cut the alert off from here first of all. I'm gonna put here curly braces. I say here check count. I'm checking this time if it is more than 0. And then this. Alright. So yeah, this is something that it is going to check. Okay, if the check count is more than 0 and we have alert that they're present, then show it. So if I go here, you will see that it's not present there. So now what I do, I put here email, then I put here password, I put all the required like special character, number, uppercase, more string. Now it says like let's save, and you can click save and it goes away. Now if any of the conditions is false, like this password, that green box goes away. Now it's time we work on saving the user. So we need to save a user at least, so that we can see the list here. So what we do basically, we need to mention here on the click, we need to run a function. So I say here on click equals curly braces, and then we pass a function, and we pass it like this. It's gonna be save user. Save user. Alright. And now we need to create this function because we don't have it. So on top here we create. And we can minimize this validation so that we be easy to see everything. So here I say function save user, and on click this function will work. Now here we can put some more validations before we save a user. So first thing, I want to make sure that both the user email and password is provided. So we can check simply if user email, so we are checking our state not equal to this, and user password is not equal to empty string. Alright, if this is true, only then we can want to save the user. And how we want to save a user, now that's another thing. So for now, what do we want to do? We want to say an array. So let's go here. We say constant, and I'm gonna call it the array. Alright, this is going to be the array where all the users will be stored. So I call it the array. So here we say set the array. You can call it anything, user array or anything, whatever you prefer. I say use state by default empty. Alright, now we need to pass values into it. So when you want to pass it, so what you can do, you can say set the array, and here you pass it old array. Alright, and then you want to pass an array dot old array. Now basically we want to put here an object with both the values. So it's going to be user email as user email, as well as user password as user password. Alright, so the state, the value, and the key for it is the same. You can even pass it without it. You can just pass it like this, user email and user password, but just to be more clear, more basic, it's just I'm adding it that way. And I'm passing it like check for the old values and add this one in the array. and that's how it is going to do. Now what we want to do is we also want to check for use state. Use state is a hook from React. So when we save a user, we want to make sure that we are doing some things. So for example, when we save a user, we want to make sure that input and password both gets empty, and then we can do by use effect. So how we do it, so let's do that. So for using use effect, first of all, you need to import it, and for importing it, you can simply say here next to use state, use effect, like this. Now we'll be able to use it. So here simply we're gonna call use effect, and inside it we're gonna call whatever we want. If you want to run single only once when the page loads, you pass an empty array, and it is going to run only once. Now if I want to check that every time this array of users gets updated, we want to do some things. So what I can do, I can pass this state. I can say, okay, there is this state. If anything changes in this one, do these operations, whatever operations we define here. So what we want to do, first of all, we want to set user email and user password blank. So we need to update these states, user email and password. And if you see here, we have that set as a value to form fields. So if we set them empty, they will empty the form fields. So let's say user email. We need to use the set user email, and pass here empty string. All right, and then it's gonna be password. Set is empty as well. Now, if you remember, for the validation, we set this. If the validation is all right, then set this check count to 1, otherwise to 0. We need to reset it, otherwise we will have that green box showing up. So we don't want that the save button is displaying every time. So we want to show it only when the validations are true, so we can pass it as 0. All right, so go back here, refresh. I pass here email.com, password, let's put something here, uppercase, more characters. Now it comes here. Now when I hit save, you can see that this is getting empty. All right, so we have things going on here. Okay, now it's time we display our users here, and displaying users is going to be done because we need to first get the users. So if I because we have the array, which is the state we set here, and we are putting everything, so we can loop through here. So if you notice, we have a UL here, then a li, which is active. So here we can say saved user, or let's save data. So if you go to the page, you will see save data showing there. Now this list we need to show coming from our array. So I remove this and loop through here. So how we can do this? So what I do, I cut this, and the way we did here for alert, we can do the same here. So what do we want to do? We want to say here the array, and then end, and then we pass here the array. Now this is an array, so we can run a function on it. So I say map function from JavaScript, and it's gonna run on it. So here we can get each element. So here I say here item as each element and the index of that item. All right. Now here inside it, what we're gonna do, we're gonna say return. We're gonna paste this. Now we need to show the value. So for that, what we do here, we remove the content, the text, and we pass here the item dot user email. we need to pass a key. So here, whenever you loop through, you need to pass a key, so you can pass the index in there. So that's going to be alright for it. So it should display as the users. So if I go here, put something and .com password uppercase number string, save it, and you can see there is that user now displaying. So perfectly fine. Now let's deal with one more thing. That is the icons. So if I go to the alright guys, so we need to use some icons in our application. So for that we need to go to react icons GitHub, and there is this command we need to run in our application. So I go back to the code, and there, new terminal window, I just run this. Alright, so it's gonna save the icons for us. So the package is there now. So if you want to use any of the icons, just import like this. So I go back here and paste it here. So if I put this font here in my code, we want to use here like that. So okay, now let's go back to the application. You will see the beer icon there. We don't need beer icon, so I say here icon, let's say like that. And these are the Bootstrap icons. What I need two icons from here. One is this, and one is a cross. So cross for here we have the cross. I copy that and paste here. Now I get this one here first. Alright, let's go back to app. We have our pen there. Actually, what we can do, NS needs to be, let's try this, go back here, and it should work. Okay, now it's fine. We need this, as well as we need the cross. So I take the cross one from here, and that's the this. And let's go down and create another one. Alright, now we should have two icons, and that's one for edit, one for delete. So now what we can do, we can put some styling here. So what I do, break it here, put here style, and what style we want is basically some padding. So I say padding left. It's gonna be camel casing here, and it's gonna be 10 pixel, and font size, let's make it 34 pixel. Alright, now copy this and paste exactly the same here. Okay, now refresh, no errors. Go here, add.com, put the password, special latest number, uppercase, save. Now we have the icons, and that looks alright. Okay, so we are storing it, that's fine. Now what I want to do, I want to store it inside inside a local storage. So and here we need to install it. So this is the package. I just copy this, go back here, put into the terminal and save it. And if you face error, just put -- force at the end. Alright, now it is done. So we can now work with it. So we go back to our app. And here, what we want to do, I want to use the this React session. So to use this React session, if you go to documentation, scroll down, you need to include it like this. So import sessions on your file. So I import it on top. Let me copy it again and paste here. Now we need to set it what do you want to save in. So it's a local storage or session storage. So I just copy this from here and put here. And instead of local storage, I want to use session storage. So if you want to use local storage, you can use that. I'm gonna use session storage. Alright, so what we're gonna do this time, we want to save these inside the storage. So when we are saving it, when we are clicking the save button and it comes here, we want to set it up at that point. So for that, all you need to do, you need to go to the user effect, and here you need to set it as we are setting here. So just copy this line and go to our app and put it here. Now what do we want to do? We want to set it as users. So I'm gonna remove this with users, and we want to put here the array D, because that's the state we have. Now when you put it in like this, you need to put it in as a JSON. So we say JSON dot stringify. There's a function here. It's gonna stringify it and gonna put it into the session storage. All right. Okay, let's try it. So refresh to check your data in session storage. You need to go in application storage, and then you need to check for session storage here. Currently we have this user Bob and all that. So delete this. Now I go here. I put an email.com. Then here password special, the number, uppercase, and string, and I hit save. When I hit save, you can see that it saved the username and password, user password here, and all is inside users. Okay, that's all we want now. If I refresh the page, I want it to load here so that then we get the users, because if I go to the storage, it's in session storage, we still have that. Okay, it's getting reset, so we need to find a solution for it. Okay, to solve the issue, what we need to do when we refresh the page, initially, first time, we should go and check the local session storage, and we should put that value in our this array, so that initially it is going to set it to there. Because when I refresh now, currently what it is doing, it is going for it, and there is no value in the array state, and it is setting it to empty. So what we can do, we can use this use effect multiple times. So here I'm saying like, okay, when the array is getting updated, do this. But we can also say like, okay, when the page first time refreshes, also run then as well. So we say here use effect, and here I'm gonna pass this as an empty array as a dependency, so it runs only once this time. And here what we want to do, to get the value, use the similar statement. So we can say here if, and we pass it here, and here we're going to say get, but here you don't need to pass a value, so you can simply remove it. So we are saying here, okay, get the users, and now it's not going to work because it's, if you remember, we passed the value as a JSON. So we need to parse this as well before we do anything. So we say here parse JSON dot parse like this, and now it will be an array. And after that, we can say here dot length. So here we are technically checking that this is an array, and this array has a length. That means there is value. So by default, if you see here, it's an empty array, so it's going to be 0. So this condition will not run, but if there is any value, we want to get it. So here we can say here simply, because we already parsing it here, so this is going to be array, and we can set it straight away. So to set the array, so we can call that state function. So we can set the array and we can pass this value like this. So this will run initially first time, and after that we will do the setting of it. So yeah, this is how it needs to be done. So let's see if it works. So refresh here, go here, put an email.com, put a password, special, uppercase, more, and save. It is there. Now go to the storage, session storage. It is there too. Now refresh the page. Now you can see it's there because it refreshed, it went into the storage, it found there, it set it up to our new array, and then if this fires, this array will have a value because it already had got the value from here. So we will not lose our data. So if I add here roger@gmail.com, password, special, number, uppercase, save, there it is, refresh, we still have it. Wonderful. Now let's work with the more things we need to edit and delete and all that stuff. So alright, for editing, what we need to do, we need to create a function again, and as well as for delete. So here, let's deal with edit first. So I go here, simply I'm gonna say on click, alright, and we call a function. And what I want to call that, I'd say handle edit. Alright, and this handle edit will take the index, as we will have an index value here, so we can pass it here. Now we don't have handle edit function, so let's create it. So I go here on top, above the again, this validation, everything is open, so let's close it. Let's add a comment here first. Saving user, and here let's create another function, or let's create it in this way, constant handle edit equals, we get handle edit, we get an index here, and here we deal with handle edit. So we first get the access to the state, we loop through this state, so we say here map function, so we can go through each value of this state, and here I say item and the index. As we are getting index as a parameter, we can call this index as a new index, or anything you prefer, or you can call that index something else. So here, now what we want to do here, this should end here. Inside it, what we want to do, we want to check that the one we clicked, we are getting that one. So we can say here index equals to new index. Alright, now when this is happening, we can do some stuff. So we can say okay, the clicked one, if you find an array, the current one, set it that one. So we say set user email, and we say item dot user email. Hope you got the point, because if it is going to go through all the accounts, it is going to check which one we clicked, and it's going to match it. So if it is the same index, it is going to match the values. So here we can say user password, and here password as well. Password, alright. And as it is going to put the values into the form fields and click, so there are values already, so we can set the validation to true, because we need to show our button, right? So button is totally based on this check count, so we can set this check count to 1 at that point. So I'm gonna close this function like this, and this is gonna be like this. All right, So now if I go here, refresh, actually I didn't have to refresh, so if I click here, you can see that it puts the values there. It shows the message, this box, and if we click here, it updates there. Now the thing is, it says us to let's save, but it is something we are updating, so we need to update the message. So how we can do that? So when we click these, especially the edit button, we can set state, and initially we can set that state to some certain value. So and that can work. So let's do that. So what I do, I go here on top. Here I say constant. I call a state edit index. Then I say set edit index, and by default this state I want to set it as null. Alright, so we are setting this index. So now when I go back here, sorry, where we are editing it here, we can set it to a value. It shouldn't be null because by default it is null. So what we can do, we can set it to new index. Alright, now it is going to have a value that is set to it, and based on this we can show the message. So we are currently saying it is save. So let's say here, so we are saying here, let's save. So instead of this, what I can do, I can put here like this. Then I say edit index if not equals to null, right? If it's not equal to null, what we want to show, we want to say here update, and that is going to be in case of update only. And otherwise, yeah, we can show here save. So save. Exactly the same we need to put in the bottom. So I put here to, so it's going to be save or update user. So let's see if it works. Go here, refresh, click here. So it say let's update user. All right. So now when we hit update user, this is going to fire the same function, which is save user. So we need to handle our save functionality in a way so that we update the user instead of inserting it again, because currently if I click here update user, it will add it again, which is something we don't want. So now we don't even have delete, so I can't do that. So let's do it first. So go in a save user, and here we need to put a condition. So here inside the, when we have the email and password present, we can say here it was edit index, yeah, edit index if this is more than 0 or equal to 0. All right, that means it's not null. There was some value set. So we say if exists update. So if the records exist, we are updating it. So what we can do, we simply say here the array, which is our state. We can go through map, and we are going to put here again item index. There are many approaches to do this, but I just want to make it as simple as possible so it can be very understandable. So here I say index is equal to edit index. So we're going through the array of each of our user, and we are checking with the one we clicked, because on click we are setting the edit index. So here what we can do, we can simply say here item dot user email equals to user email. All right, and here item dot user password equals user password. All right, and let's create a new variable here. So I say let new array, by default going to be empty,
And here we can say, yeah, after this condition, array.push item. Alright, so it is going to create a brand new array, and then we can set that array. So set the array, and we pass here a new array. So the new data that we got, we are passing it here. Alright, and this will happen only in case we are updating. So we are checking all the data where we are matching it. On click, whatever values we are getting, we are passing there, and then we are setting the array again. So that's how it is going to work. And for the normal save, we can do this like if added index, because if we are not updating, that means this is going to be equal to null, and if it is equal to null, follow this path, not that one. So we can put that here. Alright, now it should, okay, what we have here, null. Okay, I to start it and end it. Alright, now first, I need to remove this data because we don't have delete working currently. So refresh, and we have error. So JSON parse unexpected line JSON data. So this is happening in our, so the issue is coming because of the hard refresh. In case you face the issue, try to hard refresh your browser. Now let's see what happens now. So I put here an email .com and then password, special character, number, uppercase, more characters, and we save it. And now let's add one more, manu@gmail.com, and special character, and yeah, and this is not my email actually if you try to contact. So alright, so if I want to edit it, I click here, it goes there, update, all good. Now refresh, that also works, and yeah, so far so good. So 1, 2, hit update, it updates that one. If I say 1, 2 here, update, it updates that one. Let's remove this 1, 2 pack, and that removes. So yeah, perfectly working. Now let's work and let's see in the storage. So if I go here, so you can see that it's updating here as well. So if I go here and I say here 4.5 update, that updates there too. That's perfectly updating session values as well. Now let's work with a delete. So let's go to delete, which is this square at the bottom, and here just gonna copy this and gonna call it handle delete. We are passing the index. Now we don't have this function, let's create it. So let's go above here. Here, let's add a comment. Updating user. And in update user, yeah, looks so far so good. Now let's delete constant and delete. We are getting an index, and here what do we want to do? I'm going to do something similar, and what we want to do is I go here, we're gonna do the same thing. So I copy this and paste here. So we say here array mapped through it, so we have item index, and then we say here when it is not equal, so the one we clicked, when it is not equal to that, so because we are excluding that one, and we create a brand new array. So here I say here simply let filtered array, and that's gonna be this array, and here I copy this and simply we want to push values the item. Alright, so this is going to be a brand new array, and then here simply set the array, and we pass here filtered. Alright, so it should do the trick. And let's add comment here, deleting from array, and session, because we need to remove it from storage as well. Let's see if it works. Refresh page, we have this, and I click here. And we'll delete on click index, and that goes away if I click now, and that goes away too. Let's go to storage, and we have empty array, so it is deleting. So okay, let's pass some values, and here uppercase, more characters, save. Let's add anu@gmail.com, special character, numbers, uppercase, save, Roger at yahoo.com. Save. Alright, so now if I hit delete, it goes from there. And here too. Now refresh, we get those values. Perfect. Now go here, change it to menu, update user. It is updated. Refresh, and here we go. Our application is working perfectly, and everything is so far so good. So this is it. The zip of this code is available to download. You can modify it, reuse it as well as you like. If you like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.